Hey, this is Kenrick, and let's talk a little bit about frames, shall we? So, first of all, what is a frame? That'd be useful to know, wouldn't it? Well, let's look at it this way. It's a point of view. I'm looking this way. Maybe somebody else would choose to look this way, and somebody else this way, and somebody else this way. A frame is simply a point of view. But a frame is usually unconscious. If you're talking to your children, you probably will take the frame of parent, right? And you may not really be conscious of doing that. If they go, but Dad, I really want to do this. We don't do that because, and you take this tone and you have this point of view, this frame. And that's true about everything in life. If you work for a living, then you have a boss, and the boss is going to have a frame, and you're going to have a frame. Your frame is likely, what can I do to make you happy? His frame is likely, or her frame is likely, get this done, and get this done, and then, be productive, right? So we shift frames as the context shifts. What does that mean? Well, you could be a parent in one moment. You can be an employee in another. You could be an employer in yet another moment if you also owned a company, maybe a side hustle or whatever, right? You could have your primary thing where you're the owner and you're managing all these people. You take a frame on every one of these. Well, let's look at this. Let's say you want to increase your selling. Let's say you're a coach and you want to get more clients, or you want to coach more effectively. You've got a frame. This is always the case. You always come into something with a frame. Let me give you a couple of examples that'll make really good sense to you. Go back to when you were in grade school or maybe high school, and the teacher asked for a volunteer. Maybe you raised your hand, and the teacher looks like this and goes, Johnny, would you like to do this? And as you look over at Johnny, he didn't even raise his hand. You're thinking to yourself, but I had my hand up. What am I, chopped liver? That's a frame. The teacher had a frame. You had a different frame. When your frame was, in essence, I could say disrespected or not taken into account, what happens? It doesn't feel good, does it? There's a collide. There's a collision of frames. That's why I say frames are often at the unconscious level, at the level that we're not really paying attention to. We just take them and put them on as the occasion arises, and we don't really give much thought to that. Let me give you another example of this. Remember back in maybe high school, maybe grade school, but maybe you were in the cafeteria, maybe you were in line to get some food, and here comes a bully, right? And they cut in line in front of you, and then they push you as well, but you kind of just back up and give them their space, not wanting to fight. Right there, that is a clash of frames. You have the bully frame on the one hand, and you have the subservient frame on the other. You took the subservient frame automatically, or maybe you took the bully frame yourself, or the power frame, and you said, no, out, and you were willing to fight to maintain the position. Really interesting, isn't it? Frames collide. It happens at the unconscious level. And now let's talk about selling and how to sell more, because frames happen outside of consciousness there too. Now, in the article that I wrote called Frames in Theory and Practice, I talk about having or looking at a number of frames and how they could change things. So let's talk about a deal maker just as an example, okay? Have you ever been in a used car dealership and the guy takes the deal maker frame? I mean, everybody that comes in is a deal waiting to happen. And maybe you've taken the frame of, I want information. I want to figure out if there's something here for me and what I choose to do about it, if anything. Okay. How do those frames collide? Who comes out on top? And I'm not here to tell you that one will absolutely win. It's the one that has the most strength behind it that's going to win. It's something to take into account, to keep in mind. But there's another frame I want to bring up. It's the authority frame. And you know what? This always wins if you can hold it, if you can assert it. There's another interesting thing about frames. They change all the time. You have to stay on top of it. You may be on top in 1 minute, and then the next minute, you're not so much. What happened? I want you to give some thought to this as you go throughout your day, because you can apply this information to selling. You can apply it to getting more people to do what you want in persuasion. You have to stay in control of the frame. You cannot assert a frame of authority by going, I am the authority and you will obey. You can't do that, not in a sales situation. It's more subtle. And I have a lot to say about this, and I'm going to come back and do a lot more, but I want to get you started with this information, get thinking about it, so it starts making more sense to you, and you begin to bring what is probably mostly unconscious into the conscious realm. One more thing I want to mention. You ever just kind of put on the role of just going through the motion? That's a frame. You're just doing it. Let's get excited about what we do. Let's bring our best self to the table so we can sell more, persuade more, and get more people to do what we want them to do. Done with integrity. This is one of the most powerful things you can do. I have a lot more we'll cover. Look forward to talking to you again real soon.